All right, welcome back everyone. This is the second video in the series of booklet solutions for atomic structure chapter. Now the questions covered in this chapter are stated in front of you. The topic which is covered is Bohr's model. Right, so based on the discussion that we would have done in the class, the homework assigned is based on the mathematical results from Bohr's model. So let's go question by question. Let's start with the first question. The first question is a good question which stresses on a simple thing to remember, simple concept to remember, that change is always final minus initial. This is where many of the students would have made the careless mistake. This relationship between potential energy and kinetic energy, this is something that you would have already seen in the notes when you were discussing Bohr's model of atom. So given the kinetic energies, you can determine the potential energies and then talk about the change in potential energies, which is final minus initial. So use that convention, you will get the correct answer. Then 17th question is pretty straightforward. It talks about the total energy, and isme the catch is that excited state is being asked in the question. You will get the answer of n equal to 2, but you might make a mistake of putting the answer as option number B, although option A is the correct answer. Why? Because n equal to 2 corresponds to the first excited state. Right. Then 18th question, again it uses a certain nomenclature. It says n shell, right? So n shell को हम लोग किस तरीके से read करेंगे? KLMN, that is the nomenclature given for the shells. So n corresponds to n equal to 4. Now we simply use the formula that is there for the total energy of an electron in a particular orbit, and we get the answer of total energy. And then this relationship that we have studied in the class, how potential energy and total energy are related, can be applied. Then 19th question is a straightforward question based on the formula of how total energy is written. So you substitute the value of Z as 1 because it is hydrogen atom, and N as 3 because of the third orbit being discussed, right? And then you understand how kinetic energy and potential energy are related to the total energy. So you get the answer. So 20th question is again a straightforward question. This time you have to use the formula and the values of radius of an orbit. So we understand that radius of an orbit was defined as per Bohr's model of atom, 0.529 into n square by z in the units of angstrom, right? So you use that formula here and did some basic calculations. Now, since the option is in SI units, so you just write angstrom as 10 raised to the power of minus 10 meter. Straightforward. 21st question में this word inside is a catch. So it's a strict less than equality, less than inequality, I should say. So the value z equal to 16 would also not be the answer, because z equal to 16 would become a case of an equality. यहाँ पर बोला जा रहा है fit inside. So fit inside मतलब that the radius has to be less, and then the only option then remains as an answer is the C option. Okay. 22nd question, ratio of velocity, right? So इसमें मैंने आपको क्लास में भी examples के through बताया है, when you are discussing certain such types of question, don't get into the values and all, just notice the proportionality and use that to get the ratio. Okay, so that's what we have done. We remember the formula from Bohr's model of atom, that V is directly proportional to Z by N, and then took the ratio. 23rd question is something that is again the same thing in terms of the ratio. We can interpret this. See, the R is proportional to N square by Z, right? Since they are part of the same atom, the Z value cancelled out. So essentially R is proportional to N square, right? And if you take the ratio should be equal to 2 square by 3 square, and then you get the answer. Straightforward question. 24th is again a question which uses the formula of radius of an atom, right? It is a straightforward question. simply put the data points, we'll get the answer. 25th question, this is a graph based question. Now, in order to do this graph based question, I have taken a small session during our live classes where I have given you some preliminary information about how to draw simple graphs, some linear graphs, parabola, hyperbola, all that information was discussed in the live class. So I'm not going to reiterate that over here. So you can notice the formula of velocity or speed of an electron. It is directly proportional to z. So you get the linear graph when we plot v versus z. V and n, they are inversely proportional. So if you plot v versus n, you will get a hyperbola. But v and 1 by n, as you can see in this third graph, v and 1 by n, they are directly proportional. So you again get a linear graph for them. Right? You can write this 1 by n as say some q variable. So यहाँ पर कैसा हो गया? V and q are directly proportional, and because of that, the v and 1 by n graph comes out to be a linear graph. So, right, the D option does not match the hyperbola option, right? So that is the incorrect answer. The D option, that is something which is written for when a variable is related to the negative, directly proportional to the negative of the other variable. Then that D option kind of graph is something that we see. All right. Then 26 is calculation of frequency. Now, the calculation of frequency is pretty simple. It's based on the formula that is 1 upon time period. Time period is the distance traveled upon the speed. So distance is the circumference, 2 pi r, and speed is v. So you get the formula of frequency. And now, since you remember the formula of speed and radius from Bohr's model of atom, you just substitute everything in SI units, so that the final answer that you get is also in SI units only. So you use these and put and substitute, you'll get the correct answer. Then 27th question, it's just a question using the formula of wave number, which is 1 upon wavelength. Now, since the energy associated with the radiation is quantized in form of nhc by lambda, so 1 by lambda you substituted as x, and based on it you will get the number of photons. So it's a simple question of substitution of the formula. 28th question mein, this is something that I have highlighted as part of class notes again, that ionization potential, you can replace it by ionization energy. Okay, ionization potential was an old term. Ionization potential is something which you can now read as ionization energy. So you have been mentioned or given that ionization energy of ground state of hydrogen is 13.6 eV. Now this is something which was already known to you. ठीक है, बट ठीक है, इसको गिवन भी बोल दिया, ठीक है, एक्स्ट्रा डेटा दे दिया क्वेश्चन में. Now what you are being asked is ionization energy of hydrogen atom in the first excited state. So that means you have to take the electron from n equal to 2 to n equal to infinity. That is the change in energy that you'll have to calculate in order to take the electron from first excited state to out of the atom. So you substituted that over here, that this is delta E. Delta E is always final minus initial, and far away from the atom, the energy is 0. And second orbit ka, you can calculate the energy and get the answer. Okay. 29th question is a good question. It teaches you something else apart from the regular knowledge that we have gained in the class. So यहाँ पर observe करना. When I look at this formula of angular momentum, L is equal to mvr. Can I say L is directly proportional to V or L is directly proportional to R? The answer is no. Why? Because when I say L is directly proportional to V, the other things in the equation must be constant. So I can't say L is directly proportional to V because R is not constant. Okay. Similarly, I can't say L is directly proportional to R because V is not constant. So you can only use the direct proportionality when the other terms present in the equation are constant, right? So using this formula, L is equal to nh upon 2 pi, I can say L is directly proportional to n because h, 2 and pi, they are constant. ठीक है. So using this, as I know that r is also directly proportional to n square, or root over r is proportional to n. So I can relate L and R as that L is directly proportional to root R. Okay. This is one way of looking at it. You could have done the substitution over here also. Okay. But another way of doing is that you could have substituted the formula of V in terms of R, right? And from the force balance equation, and then also got the relationship between L and R while keeping other quantities here constant. So that is also another way. This is just one of the ways that I've shown. So the major learning is that to avoid seeing direct proportionality if other things are not constant. Okay. All right. 30th question. It is similar to the frequency based question that we just talked about. We understand the formula from that question that it will be 1 upon time period, which is V upon 2 pi R. And since the proportionality of V and R are known to us, I can substitute them over here and get the proportionality for F, the frequency, and it comes out to be directly proportional to Z square by N cube. Now, if I am asked to compare frequency of certain case with certain case, I can quickly take the ratio of this proportionality. So third orbit of hydrogen, Z ka value 1, N ka value 3, substituted over here, upon frequency of second orbit of helium. So Z ka value 2 and N ka value 2, substituted over here, and I get the ratio. ध्यान से observe करना. This is something that is a consistent methodology that we have been following when we are asked to compare certain Bohr results between different single electron species. Now, 31st question was also on the same lines, that you have been given kinetic energy of a certain case and being asked the kinetic energy of certain other case. Okay, single electron system. So the formulas of Bohr model of atom are applicable. So we use the formula of proportionality that kinetic energy is directly proportional to Z square by N square, and then we take the ratio and put the Z and the N of the respective cases along with them to get the unknown. ठीक है. यहाँ पर एक छोटा सा कैच यही रहेगा that kinetic energy आपसे नहीं पूछा जा रहा था, आपसे actually total energy पूछा जा रहा था. And since you know the relationship between total energy and kinetic energy, you can easily say that the total energy is minus of kinetic energy. All right. Now, 32nd question, I'm sure you would have gotten stuck at it. It's a good question. If you are able to get an answer to it, then also it's great. But I would want to discuss it a little later after doing atomic spectrum in a bit more detail. Okay. In fact, this is something that was just the last topic of our discussion that we did in the last class. So let me kind of take a recap of it, kind of explain it more, and then come back to this question again. Okay. I'll discuss it in the class itself. 33rd question is again something that you have been asked to compare force in a certain single electron case versus force in certain other single electron case. And in order to do that, we need to understand the proportionality. And since this formula is not something that you have derived by yourself, but I would expect you now to remember this formula, that force of attraction between the nucleus and the electron is directly proportional to Z by R square, and R is directly proportional to N square by Z. So that is what I have substituted over here and got the proportionality of F in terms of Z and N. Once this is done, then it is the same methodology. You take the ratio, substitute the Z and N appropriately to get the answer. Okay. So this was the key part of the question where you have to identify how F is related to Z and N, and then rest is the mathematical calculation. 34th question is also based on the same lines. It might again look like to you what is angular acceleration. ठीक है, ये टर्म वापस आप लोगों को नहीं समझ में आ रहा होगा because of the fact that मैंने आपको circular motion नहीं पढ़ाया है, right? So this is something again I would want to take an analogy of how force and acceleration are directly proportional to each other that you have studied in linear motion. ठीक है, आप लोगों ने linear motion में ये relationship पढ़ा ही होगा ना, F is equal to ma. So उसी तरीके से circular motion में भी the force, the centrifugal force you can say, or the centripetal force is directly proportional to the angular acceleration. So जो proportionality force का मैंने यहाँ ऊपर निकाला था, Z क्यूब अपॉन n रेज़ टू द पावर ऑफ 4 वो मैंने इसी क्वेश्चन में यूज कर लिया है. ठीक है, आई हैव जस्ट टेकन द रिजल्ट फ्रॉम द प्रीवियस क्वेश्चन राइट ऑन टू दिस क्वेश्चन. ठीक है, अब आपको जब आप सर्कुलर मोशन पढ़ लोगे तो आपको एंगुलर एक्सेलरेशन का फॉर्मूला भी बता दिया जाएगा. इनफैक्ट यू विल बी एबल टू come up with that answer by yourself and get this proportionality in certain more fundamental way. ठीक है, but अभी के लिए take it to be directly proportional to force and use the same relationship to get the answer. All right, then 31st question is, or 35th question actually. 35th question is pretty straightforward. This is something that we discussed in the class also as part of the radius diagram, and 36th also as part of the energy diagram, right, in which we highlighted the fact that distance in terms of or you can say gap in terms of distance between successive orbits increases as we go away from the nucleus, while gap in terms of energy between successive orbit shrinks as we go away from the nucleus. This is something that we discussed in the class itself. Same something proportionality के फॉर्म में आपको ये समझ में आ जाएगा. So this was the FBO question section. Now let's come to the FBS section of the homework. Now in the FBS section, you know, the calculations are hectic. So this is something which I'll highlight upfront because this comes out as a common concern among students, that it took a lot of time for them to arrive at these answers without the use of calculator and all. So this is, I completely agree, but I'm also you know, going to reiterate the same thing that I have told you in the class, that in the booklet and while solving certain reference books, you are going to come across questions jahan par the calculations might not be great. But when it comes to exam, when it comes to tests, the data is designed in such a manner that the calculations become relatively easier. ठीक है, आप उठा के देख लो पिछले कितने ही साल के जेईई के पेपर्स, you will not find questions जहाँ पर they have you know, forcefully made students to, you know, spend time into doing unnecessary calculations. ठीक है, डेटा अच्छा डिजाइन, कैलकुलेशन करवाएंगे ऐसा नहीं कैलकुलेशन नहीं होगी, डेफिनेटली कैलकुलेशन होगी. ठीक है, तो कैलकुलेटर मत यूज करना, because the moment you start using calculators, it kind of destroys your you know, aptitude or destroys your you know, willpower to you know, solve manually. ठीक है, then you always go for the shortcut, फटाफट कैलकुलेटर निकाला एंड सॉल्व करने लग गए. सो जेईई के एग्जाम में भी कैलकुलेशन रहेंगी, बट डेटा इतना गंदा नहीं रहेगा, काफ़ी चीज़ें कैंसिल आउट होती होंगी, सिंप्लीफाई होती होंगी, अप्रॉक्सीमेशन काम कर जाएगा. तो यू विल लर्न दैट टाइम एंड अगेन, बट डोंट यूज कैलकुलेटर एज इट विल काइंड ऑफ टेक अवे द, you know, it will kind of break that inertia and of you know, being proactive. You will become lazy next time. जब भी कुछ क्वेश्चन आएगा फटाफट कैलकुलेटर उठा लोगे. Alright, so FBS के questions बड़े simple हैं. They are just straightforward application of formulas with couple of questions using certain different I should say units, but we'll come across them. So let's talk about the 17th question first. Now in this, it's a question in which it simply asks you to you know, determine the number of or the time taken to complete 10 raised to the power of 7 revolutions. So you remember the result of what time period was, that, you know, एक revolution complete करने में the time taken is what is we define as time period. That will be 2 pi r by b. It will be the distance traveled upon the speed. ठीक है, so यहाँ पर क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा है अगर 10 की पावर 7 रेवोल्यूशंस करने हैं तो कितना टाइम लगेगा. You did a simple unitary method and got the formula. Now in order to calculate the formula, you use the result of v and r of the concerned orbit. So it is at the second orbit, so r का formula हमने use कर लिया. Don't forget to put the SI units. ठीक है, एंगस्ट्रॉम में नहीं मीटर में लिखना. एंड वैसे ही speed of electron is something that we also know the formula for. So since it is second orbit, so you substituted the value of n as 2 and got the result of the speed as well in SI units. So you substitute and do the calculation. As I said, the calculations are not that great, but you will be able to get the answer. Okay. Now, 18th question. 18th question again, it's a straightforward question that just asks you to apply the results or the formulas that you have learned in the Bohr's model, especially in the first and the second part. Okay, first and the second part is pretty straightforward. You just apply the formula. That's it. Okay. And after that, the third part is something where they have given some slight bit of variation, that the electron is de-exciting from n equal to 3 to n equal to 1. And during this de-excitation, what will be the wavelength and frequency of the photon or the spectral line that will be observed. So you use the formula that hc by lambda or h nu is delta E, and मैंने यहाँ पर थोड़ा डायरेक्ट कैलकुलेशन कर दिया है because I remember the energy levels. ठीक है, this is something which helped me a lot while solving these questions. That for hydrogen I remember that n equal to 1 का energy level was minus 13.6 eV. n equal to 2 का energy level was minus 3.4 eV. n equal to 3 का energy level was minus 1.51 eV. n equal to 4 का energy level was minus 0.85 eV. This is something that helped me in a lot of calculations. तो यहाँ पर जैसे E3 and E1 के बीच का gap है, तो I just quickly used these values and did a calculation, and this came out to be 12.09 eV. And because SI units में पूछा है, तो मैंने EV को joules में convert कर दिया by using the conversion factor, and then I got calculating the frequency. वेवलेंथ के लिए मैंने कन्वर्जन नहीं करा था. वेवलेंथ के लिए एक्चुअली आई यूज्ड द फॉर्मूला 12400 अपॉन 12.09. ठीक है, अप्रोक्सीमेटली आई वुड हैव गॉट द सेम आंसर. ठीक है, थोड़ा सा आगे पीछे करके आई वुड हैव गॉट द सेम आंसर. नाउ 19th question. 19th question again, like straightforward application of the result of radius of सिंगल इलेक्ट्रॉन स्पीशीज. एक बार हाइड्रोजन के लगाना है, एक बार हीलियम प्लस के लगाना है, राइट. सो n स्क्वायर बाय z, यहाँ पर जो z का वैल्यू है, ठीक है, हाइड्रोजन के केस में सब में 1 है, एंड इन केस ऑफ हीलियम प्लस द z वैल्यू इज 2. 20th क्वेश्चन. नाउ थोड़ा सा लैंग्वेज ऑफ द क्वेश्चन इज समथिंग दैट यू हैव टू कीप इन माइंड, दैट इट इज द एनर्जी रिक्वायर्ड टू रिमूव एन इलेक्ट्रॉन फ्रॉम फोर्थ Bohr orbit. Right, so when you read the language of the question, it is understood that n equal to 4 से n equal to infinity लेके जाना है, तो कितना एनर्जी लगेगा. So that's simple. Delta E is change in energy, that is final minus initial. Final is 0. Initial is something that we can calculate from the formula itself, and we get the answer that this is the delta E. Now, many times I have used this interconversion formula. If you don't remember it, I would advise you to remember it for faster calculation. The energy value that I calculated was in electron volts, and it was for a single atom. Okay? But if I have to do this calculation for a mole of atom and report it in the units of kilojoule, then this is the interconversion factor that I should use. So that delta E, instead of electron volt per atom, now I can write it as kilojoule per mole, right? And अभी भी question का answer match नहीं करेगा because kilojoule per mole में नहीं पूछा है, kilo calorie per mole में पूछा है. So I use this interconversion of calorie and joule to answer the result in kilocalorie per mole. Okay, instead of joule, I would write calorie upon 4.18, and this will get me the correct answer. All right, 21st question, in which the electron collides with a hydrogen atom and excites it from ground state to n equal to 3. So just simply understanding, again remembering the result of the energy levels of hydrogen atom, I can get that how much is the minimum energy required to excite the electron. Okay, so this was something pretty simple, straightforward. It would have saved you time if you remember the energy values of hydrogen atom. Okay. 22nd question mein erg is being mentioned, which is another unit of energy. This is the CGS unit of energy, and the interconversion between erg and joule, joule is the SI unit of energy, is simply as I have highlighted in front of you. 1 erg is 10 raised to the power of minus 7 joule. Now, since the question talks about energy level of electrons in terms of erg, So we'll quickly multiply by this factor to convert into joules. And in this particular question, you are being asked about the wavelength, in case of a transition from n equal to 2 to n equal to infinity. So E infinity is 0 and E2 is something that we'll use the formula that is given in the question itself. Since it was in erg, I converted it into joules. So I got the value of delta E in joules, and in order to calculate the value of lambda, I substituted the value of H and C also in SI units. Okay, because delta E मेरे पास में joules में ही था. So this is the kind of calculation that comes in. Not that easier calculation to work with, but still you will have to do in case you have a subjective question in front of you. All right, 23rd question. Now, the first piece of information that ionization energy of hydrogen atom is 13.6 eV. It's kind of a redundant data because we already know, right? So this is something which is given, as well as that is something that we also know. नहीं भी बताते तो भी हमारा काम चल जाता, ठीक है? But अब because दिया हुआ है तो ठीक है, लिख लेते हैं यहाँ पर. And since we know that energy is directly proportional to z square by n square with a negative sign, so I substituted the value of z and n for the respective case that was being asked and did a calculation. ठीक है? So simple application of formula, not getting into the details of the calculation. 24th May. So this is actually a question from the quantum theory of light. तो इसमें तो मैंने कुछ explanation डाला ही नहीं है. I have straight away used the solution in one line, right? This is the power into time into the efficiency. So this is the energy of light that is coming out from the bulb, and this is the interpretation from quantum theory of light, that you can write this as nhc by lambda. So I've just put the values in one equation itself, and then you can go ahead and solve for the value of n. Right. In the 25th question, again that same erg is featuring, which when converted to joules is in the following manner, and then you have been given that the energy of the second and third orbit is given to you. So if a de-excitation is happening from 3 to 2, okay, the delta E will come out to be negative. n equal to 3 से n equal to 2 जा रहे हैं हम लोग, delta E आपका negative आएगा. ठीक है, negative sign क्या imply करता है? That means the photon is emitted, right? So what you can do is you can write the energy of photon as the mod value of delta E. That is what I have written now, done here, and substitute the values और को joule में convert करा, ठीक है, and then also substitute the SI units on the left hand side, so I get my answer of lambda also in SI units. The remaining is calculation. Just don't get confused with the negative part, because the negative part or negative sign that indicates the photon is emitted. You can use the energy of photon equal to mod value of delta E. Right. Then 26th question is again a simple straightforward question in which they're asking that how many revolutions per second the electron makes in the nucleus when it is present in the third orbit. So that's just the frequency, and you know the formula. You substituted the result and got the answer. Right. 27th question is a good question. In case of this question also, थोड़ा सा unitary based method का use लगेगा. That frequency or time period का definition was that one revolution करने में कितना time लग रहा है. तो 10 raised to the power of -8 seconds में कितने revolution हो पाएंगे. ये unitary method से आप solve करोगे, you will get the answer. Substitute the value of V and R for the concerned orbit, that is n equal to 2. So you should be able to then get the answer. Right. 28th question, straightforward. एक बार पढ़ने के लिए थोड़ा सा it might come out to be a little multiple lines, but it's a simple question asking you the Z value that will correspond to an X-ray emitted during a transition from n equal to 2 to n equal to 1. ये A part तो बहुत आसान है, A part के लिए तो मैं डिस्कशन भी नहीं करूँगा. B part के लिए मैं बता रहा हूँ that ये जो राइट हैंड साइड आया है, ठीक है, ये कहाँ से आया है? दिस इज कम फ्रॉम 13.6 इंटू जेड स्क्वायर इंटू 1/1 स्क्वायर माइनस 1/2 स्क्वायर. ठीक है, उसको मैंने थोड़ा फटाफट सिंप्लीफाई करके 10.2 जेड स्क्वायर लिख दिया. क्यों? बिकॉज मुझे इतना तो याद ही था कि हाइड्रोजन के फर्स्ट और सेकंड ऑर्बिट में कितना एनर्जी गैप रहता है, दैट इज 10.2 eV, एंड किसी हाइड्रोजन लाइक एटम में होगा तो z स्क्वायर से मल्टीप्लाई करना रहेगा. So that's just a little bit of faster way of solving this question. All right, so I think this should help you suffice to understand how the questions were solved. Right, the approach part is something which should be now abundantly clear to you. All right, thank you guys.